Welcome back to Call Time with Katie Birnbaum. I'm so excited for this next round of interviews with theater's best and brightest. As always, I'm really pleased with the response I've gotten to the show and with the connections I've been able to make with other theater fans, especially based on special episodes like the one I had last week on Title of Show. Feel free to suggest further plays or musicals you'd like me to investigate in the future in the comments. I'm always open to hearing what you guys want me to talk about. But I'm especially excited for this next round of interviews because we are kicking things off with an incredible singer and actress, the wonderful Aneesa Folds. And I'm going to brag a bit about her first so she doesn't have to brag herself, because I don't think she'll do quite enough bragging before I bring her in here. Aneesa is a native New Yorker, and she grew up singing in the Young People's Chorus of New York, as well as American Young Voices. From there, she's built for herself an impressive career in musical theater, starring in shows like Rent, Hairspray, Chicago, Sister Act, Saturday Night Fever, and Freaky Friday at theaters like the McHayden, Goodspeed, North Shore, St. Luke's, and Arrow Rock. She starred in the Marsha Milgram Dodge National Tour of Ragtime and was most recently seen in the critically acclaimed Lin-Manuel Miranda production of Freestyle Love Supreme on Broadway, as well as the Grammy-nominated Freestyle Love Supreme documentary, We Are Freestyle Love Supreme, about the process and product. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. So all of that is to say, Aneesa is, I think, a really clear example of hard work and raw talent paying off in this business, but we will discuss all that and more with her. So without further ado, the lovely Aneesa Folds. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
I hope so. Is there anything I missed? Any like big career highlights that are just like
I
glaring?
also I also sing with the Broadway Inspirational Voices. They're a Grammy nominated Broadway choir. So choirs are in my blood, you know?
Well,
The-
let's start with that. That's
yeah.
honestly a great place to start. I wanted to ask you because I know you a bit through mutual friends that it seems like singing specifically was your entry point into theater, and you have this sort of unique choral slash gospel background. So I'd love to hear
Mhm.
about how you came into theater through those things.
Yeah, I was introduced to theater honestly, and I think it was like sixth grade, where my teacher heard me sing in a choir class. And she was like, "Oh, you can sing," because she was giving around solos for "We Are the World," and that's a group song, so everyone had a line. And she heard me sing, and she did like a double take, and I was like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God!" And she was like, "Do that again." And then some kids in the background were like talking, and they weren't paying attention to me, but she was like, "How dare you? This little girl is singing her heart out, and you guys aren't listening to her." And then she came to our class later that day to tell our teacher that they were laughing, but they weren't laughing at me. So it was a whole thing. I was very shy and didn't really like the attention. Then she was like, "You have to audition for the musical," and I was very shy, and I didn't want to. And she talked to my mom, and she was like, "She has to audition for the musical." So I kind of was forced into it. I feel like a lot of times in my life, I've been nudged to be pushed out of my shell, which I'm grateful for. And yeah, so I was in South Pacific as Bloody Mary in the sixth grade. And then I was just like, oh, I really do like singing. So I went to my church choir. And then I was in a program called Wingspan Arts, which is a musical theater program in New York City. And then my mom found out about YPC, the Young People's Chorus of New York City, which is how we know each other through our friend. And it was just, again, I was very shy. I didn't want to do it. My mom was like, "Come on, you have to." The conductor kind of found out about my talents. And so he was like, "You come on, do this solo." And it was like very pushy. But I'm honestly thankful for it. And we were able to travel all over the world. So in high school, I was in places like Japan, Switzerland, China, Prague, Austria. Yeah, and I'm really grateful for that because through that training, I became a stronger singer. You know, having that, it was a classical choir. We would do world music, we would do gospel music sometimes, pop, musical theater, everything, and it was very classically based. So that training was able to help me get into other things. And through that choir is honestly where I got out of my shell and stepped into my own. So yeah.
That's amazing. I have so many questions based on that. First, you said you were already in choir. Was that like a required thing that you
Yeah, it was just
had to do?
yeah, it was just like a music class, and we would sit around. She'd pass out music, and then she'd be like, "Okay, sing this," and then like go take cigarette breaks every five
So did
minutes.
you have any awareness before this very specific memory that you had a voice? Like, did you like singing around the house, or was it like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I did. I like singing around the house. My dad used to sing in nightclubs, like as a cabaret. I remember seeing a flyer when I was very young. He had a microphone set up in our living room, and he would just sing sometimes, just like for fun and also to practice. And I kind of was like, I want to sing too, and he would be like, okay, here, sing this. And there are videos of me singing when I was a kid, and I don't know where those videos are, mom, but it would be nice to have them.
careful, she's gonna pull them out and they're
I
gonna
wish. I don't know if we know where they are, which is so sad, and I'm envious of the kids today where their parents post them all over Instagram. But I do, that'll probably be embarrassing in the long run. But yeah, I had early on, I was using my voice, and I always loved to sing, but I was also very, very, very shy, so it took a while for me to blossom.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And I think it's so interesting because I feel like there are, especially doing this show, I feel like there are two types of personalities that are drawn to performance and
Hmm.
sort of on these extremes. And one is the type of person who loves being the center of attention and loves to command the room. And the other is really shy, and performance is actually a way of um, helping them come into their own and sort of take the
Yeah,
stage. And you definitely feel like you say you were the latter.
definitely that.
Was there a moment where you feel like, because you don't seem shy to me now at all, was there a moment where you feel like it changed, or do you still feel like the shy girl when you go up on stage?
um I mean, obviously you get nervous going on stage, and I know that my shyness is not, um you can't see it as much. It mostly shows up in me as like anxiety, as we get older, we like name it that.
Right.
It's there. It's just like, more inward, and I'm able to present a more confident version of myself. Um I don't know, I still get nervous, but at the end of the day, it was like, oh, this is a thing that I want to do. I don't want to do anything else, and I love the how I feel when I'm doing it, and I love to be able to connect with people through it, because the response was always, wow, you're so great at this. And I don't know, it just felt good. So eventually I don't know, you just do it. But like in our show in Freestyle Love Supreme, you I mean, it's terrifying because it's all improvised, and you're making it up on the spot, and that is nerve-wracking. And then the first time I went on stage, I was shaking. However, once you do it, you don't have time to worry about being nervous, because you have to be focused, you have to be listening, you have to be taking in everything that's happening. So you can't be nervous. You don't have time. You don't have time to think about that. So
That's
that's freeing.
yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say that because I'm definitely someone who gets nervous when I go on stage still. And I think that resonates with me a lot, that you at a certain point you just have to be like, all right, I'm doing it. Otherwise you could never get on stage. You could never say your lines.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect transition into Freestyle of Supreme, interestingly. Um, for people who aren't familiar, can you explain like what makes it so unique? And you say it changes every night. Can you explain what that
Yeah.
is?
Sure. It's a hip hop improv musical comedy show. Everybody's improvising. It's usually a few MCs on stage. We have keyboardists. On Broadway, we had two people playing keys, and a beatboxer. So what we do is we go on stage and we take information from the audience in order to make our show, getting words and ideas and stories. And it's really about the audience is the star. We're communicating with them and highlighting them. And it's like kind of like Wildin' Out meets like Whose Line Is It Anyway? That's how I explain it to people, because I'm like, okay, you guys know what these things are. Like if
Right.
you put that together, that's pretty much what it is. Um, Yeah, pretty much that. But the guys that have put it together, they've been doing this for years, like 17 years now, 18 years
Wow.
now.
Yeah.
But I used to go see their shows when I was in high school, college. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, this is everything I've ever wanted to do in one thing. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like bored and was going through my old Tumblr. You remember that?
As one does, as one does.
And I found this post that said, just saw Freestyle Love Supreme for the second time. I would absolutely love to be a part of something like this. Oh, and like, what?
That's amazing. Well, I was going to ask you because I saw online that you got connected through them through the academy, through the
Yeah,
workshops that they had to learn. Can you explain a bit about what that process was like and how you were sort of like plucked out of that to do
right.
the show?
Yeah, so they were having a run the winter of 2019 that I didn't get to see over at, I think it was Ars Nova. Um, and because they're really connected with that theater. And I didn't get to go, but I saw that they were having an academy class. And I was like, all right, I mean, I guess I'll sign up for it. Didn't think anything of it. And then I got an email and it was like, hey, we'd love to have you, blah, blah, blah. At the time, I was scheduled to go do Suzical in Arrow Rock, which is in, where is that? Arkansas?
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
Arkansas. I don't actually know, but
It might be Arkansas. It was fun, but it was like right in the middle, so I didn't know if I could make it work. And then the beatboxer Shockwave, he's the one that was my teacher. He was like, "No, we'd love to have you. We'll make it work. Come, blah 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 blah." Yeah, and so it worked. I have always rapped as like a joke. I've never taken myself seriously. Um, it's something I did as a party trick in college. My friends would be like, Aneesa, rap. Or, in high school, in New York high schools, we were banging on the tables in the cafeteria. And I named myself Young Niece after someone named Young B who had this song. And I was like, oh, I'm Young Niece. And I would be like, listen to me, I'm about to rap, guys. And they'd be like hyping me up. So I basically took that and yeah, freestyle supreme is all of those things. It's freestyling and you have to there's acting in it because you're improvising, and there's also music, so it's like everything that I really love to do in one. And it was such a safe space. It wasn't about like who's the best at this in the academy. It was more of like bring yourself. It was people from all walks of life, like math teachers, dentists, rabbis, people that have never done improvisation before, people that have only focused on rap, people that haven't done any of it and are just interested because they're like, oh, I enjoy what you guys are doing on stage and I want to do this. And so it was so fun to just be in that environment where it was safe to play and have fun, and I loved it. And I guess the beatboxer was like, yeah, she's got it, my friend Chris. And then I got asked to perform at a event for Fleet Week with them very, very randomly. They were like, we have a gig, we need somebody, can you come do it? You're going to perform with us as Freestyle Love Supreme. And I was like, oh my God. At the time I was in the show off Broadway, my social anxiety, I already in my head was like, they're not going to let me go off to do this. This was my dream though. Like I needed to take this opportunity. It ended up being the most incredible I'm supposed to be here moment. It was also terrifying because they didn't warn me. I was like, what are we doing? You asked me to perform with you, but what are we doing?
right, right.
Like, what are we doing? It's fine, we'll get there. You're gonna make it up. Got it. Got it. Yeah, and there was a full band behind us, and we during our rehearsal, the guys were like, "Just follow us. You come in when you feel like it. We'll get words from the audience." And it just was magical to me, and it ended up working out. And after everyone was like, "Wow, you're so great," I was like, "This is my first performance with them. I've never done this before." They're like, "We couldn't. What? That's incredible." Yeah, so it was great. And then fast forward, I was doing Freaky Friday. Um, I didn't think anything of it, but I got the call to Telsey being like, "We need you to come audition for the show to go to Broadway. Um, these are the dates." That's a whole other crazy story. I don't know if we have time for, but there was a lot of obstacles. A lot of people trying to take me away from this opportunity. but it ended up happening, and I just am so grateful.
When we're building careers for ourselves as actors, there's so much left to chance. And for people that are people pleasers, like it seems like we both are, it can be so hard to say no to anything. But at
I
the
just
end,
don't want to let people down. It's
exactly.
like sometimes you just have to do what's right and trust that you're going to end up where you're supposed to be. And I feel like that's the thing that I've learned the most, because in this business there's so much rejection, there's so much pain, and you're trying, you're giving your all, and start to internalize that. What's wrong with me? Like, what am I doing wrong? This is my fourth final callback for waitress and nothing's happening. Like, why am I not getting the job? And because I wasn't supposed to,
Right.
because that's not what I was. That's maybe in the future, but that's not where I was supposed to end up. And so I don't know. I think that the best thing that's happened out of this is just me realizing, oh, you are your full self on on a stage. Like, you're not playing a character. You are enough as you are. And everything that you bring to the table is what people want to see. So like that's something that's been like, okay, maybe I'm doing something right.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about your career and looking at it, and it definitely seems like you are someone who has sort of like paid her dues in terms of like doing tons of regional, off Broadway, tons of shows
Yeah.
before getting to Broadway. And it also seems to me that Freestyle is, as you say, this perfect show to take you to the next level because it combines so many of your talents, and because, as you say, it depends a bit on bringing yourself to the stage rather than a character per se. um so does it feel that way? Did it feel like this like perfect thing? I mean, based on what you say, it seems like your gut was telling you that's where you needed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even, as I said, looking back at my old Tumblr and young niece,
Young niece,
her
exactly.
younger niece saying that this is where she wants to be. Yeah, like I always knew that this was something that I wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy to also be with people that I've looked up to for a really long time. When I was starting out in musical theater, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to school for it. I wasn't sure because I wasn't seeing myself on the stage. I didn't know if I would fit in. I didn't have the faith that I needed to have in order to take that step into the business. But when I saw In the Heights, I was like, wow, I know these people. Like these are my friends. This is a community that I recognize, and this is New York. This is you're rapping, and you can rap on Broadway now. Like, wow, this changes everything. And I saw that show so many times. I can't wait to see the movie. Um, and yeah, through that I became a huge fan of Lynn, and through Lynn I found out about Freestyle of Supreme, and I was just so fascinated by all of the stuff that they were doing. um yeah, so it's been really really crazy and to work with your people that you've watched on stage and looked up to, and to meet them and see like, oh, we're all just dummies playing with our friends on stage, because that's what it is. They're all children. And it's so much fun to watch and to be so scared. I mean, for Broadway, you usually have a month of rehearsal. We had a week. We had a week of rehearsal with these people that have been doing the show together for 18 years. And here comes me, scared out of my mind. And they're like, all right, you got it. Because at the end of the day, it's improv. So you just have to do it to learn it. And I really was prepared to be a standby. Like, that's what my title was. But I was going on all the time. Oh, you're going to do this show. You're going to do this show, because they were just trying to switch it up and, get me to do the rounds. And I went on our first preview, wasn't expecting that. And yeah, it was terrifying. And to meet people the same day you're going to go on stage with them. I met Wayne Brady the first day I was going to go on stage with him. We didn't play together. We didn't have that rehearsal time. I met Lynn the first time we were going to go on stage together. I was like scared. And he came up to me. He was like, "It's so great to meet you. Like, I've heard so much. I can't wait to play with you, blah, blah, blah." He was like, "Ah, I'm so nervous." I said, "Huh? You're nervous?" And he said, "Yeah, this is Every show I do, I could be fine. I'll be fine. But this, you don't know what's going to happen. You're walking into the unknown. So obviously, my stomach is flipping because it's saying, "What are we about to do?" And I think that's the beauty of it. It's just everyone's at the same place. We don't know what's going to happen. But before we go on stage, we say, "Got your back," and that's what it is. It's a we got each other. Somebody drops something, we pick it up. It's about passing the ball and making eye contact and communicating, and yeah. So we're very much about the love part of the name. So that's really the base of what it is.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I think in some ways, because we've talked a lot on this show with people about like the live theater element of live theater and why people love, when someone flubs a line on stage or an actor messes up, and it's that reminder that it is live and that it changes. And it seems like Freestyle Love Supreme is the extreme version of that, because it's, as you say, you don't know anything going into the show. And I was going to ask you too, like, did that, because I had no idea that you only had a week of rehearsal. I was going to ask, did that make the process different? And
It was a
clearly
lot of
it
learning in real time, just trying to get the footing of things. And I know that uh I don't know, I was very much seduced by the rhyme. Like, I had to rhyme. We're rapping, you have to rhyme, you have to make sense, you can't mess up. And that's hard. It's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. um and so one of my first notes from Tommy Kail was, stop rhyming. Like, you're putting yourself in a box. If you don't have to rhyme all the time.
doing it
What?
again.
Whoops.
We'll get a note from Tommy.
He was just saying, you're putting yourself in a box. And that kind of freed me up, because we do this game called True, and it's one of the moments in the show where we get vulnerable. And we might end up laughing, we might end up crying. I told the story once and got a standing ovation in the middle of the show. Wasn't expecting that. Wasn't expecting to cry on stage. But that happened. And once I was able to free myself up from rhyming all the time, I was able to just be able to tell my story, which is the most important part, is telling your story to the audience. And so sometimes I'll just stop and talk. I sing, so I use that to my advantage, because you can think slower when you're singing, because you can kind of, sustain things out,
Yeah.
let it move. Yeah, but we've had many mistakes in the show, and that's part of what it is. And I would get notes saying, if you make a mistake, call it out. Like, we want people to know this is happening, you're human, it's okay. And they love that. So it's kind of just getting used to learning that having flaws is part of the process, and it's okay, and everybody makes mistakes. Call it out, move on. I went on stage one time and did this whole rap about it being Monday. I was like, happy Monday, everybody. Yeah, it's time to play. We're trying to chill. It's Monday. Went off. I was going in, confident, happy. Sat down, niece, it's Tuesday. And they made that joke the rest of the show. I went outside to the stage where they were like, happy Monday. Like, it was a whole thing, but that's what it is. That's what it's about. Or the time I got a word, I didn't know what it meant. And so I was supposed to go first, and I said to the guy I was sitting next to, Anthony, Two Touch, and I said, hey, I don't know what this means, so you're gonna have to, we'll switch seats. And through his verse, he told me what it meant. You can't do that anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting. But tech must have been sort of a nightmare then. Like, how do you prepare for all the different possible formations?
Well, the tech, like the lighting people, the lighting, Andrew, they were improvising too.
Mm.
So we don't know where we're going to end up on that stage. So yeah, they have their cues built, but they're also improvising with us. Still couldn't find my light. I have a problem with that. I was getting notes from Cody, our stage manager. Hey, Cody. For a while, being like, hey, can you just stand in your light, please?
Well, as I told
Trying
you,
to figure that out.
as I told you before we started recording, that I had Jeff Kreuter, the lighting designer, on
Right.
last summer. So maybe Jeff will call in and say something about that.
Sorry, Jeff. It was during this one song where we talk about things we hate, and I would just go crazy. There's a clip on when we did Jimmy Fallon of that song, and I can't. Yeah, that's. I would just get too into it. So it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't standing on my spot. I would just always end up out of it because I was, getting turned.
You're candid. You're organic. Exactly. You
It's
mentioned,
okay to make mistakes.
yeah, it's part of the process. And as we said, that's part of the reason why people love it.
Right.
Exciting for the audience. I feel like they love you more. Like you mentioned the Monday story. Like if I saw that, I would love you more for that because I make that
Yeah.
mistake all the time.
Yeah. No, the audience is very forgiving. It's great. It's great. It's all a safe space, and that's what I love about it.
You mentioned a while ago, or not that long ago, but in one of your answers about not seeing yourself on stage and then seeing yourself on stage. I'm
Hmm.
curious, do you think, it seems to me that there's been progress in that regard. Do you think that there has, or do you think that this moment we're having is sort of a red herring?
We are hearing more people's stories. I think that more people are speaking out and saying, "Hey, this needs to change." And I think that people need to understand that this is not new. It's nothing new. This isn't, oh, this just happened. We've been, like POC, we've been talking about this stuff amongst ourselves for a long time. It's like the most racism I've ever experienced has been in the theater community. So it's
Wow.
not new. I just think that people need to listen and we need to be able to move forward accordingly. We need more people behind the scenes. We need more people of color in the director positions. I need to walk into an audition room and see myself behind the table. It's very, very rare that that happens. I have a black manager, and when I didn't know he was black when I was going, he did like uh, he kind of did like auditions to get into, so you can get signed to him. And I walked in, his name is Greg. I don't know if he was,
Right.
I walked in and I was like, I had to fix my face. I was like, oh, all right. Hey, my fam. And he's great, and it's great to have that on my side. And someone who understands me and knows what I want and is rooting for me. And I just feel like we need more of that. So hopefully that there are some changes, and hopefully that, there are a lot of people doing the work right now, Broadway for racial justice, and people that are fighting the good fight. And I think that we need to make some changes for sure, definitely, because there are a lot of things that still go down backstage that we don't feel safe talking about. I know myself, I've been in many situations where I'm like, oh, this happened to me. But I look around and there's no one like me. I'm in an all white space and I have no one to talk to about this.
Yeah.
And I don't, where do I go? So I've been silenced in many ways. And um, I don't know, throughout this year, when so many people were speaking up around me, I just felt so inspired and proud, and I'm just glad that people are becoming aware and listening, and I hope that things continue to move forward and that we just see more representation across the board because it is so needed, very, very needed.
Yeah, I think you're totally right that people often forget. I think people often in many ways think of theater as just the cast, just the people who are on stage, because that's the most
Hmm.
public facing thing. So they can, if they have a somewhat diverse cast, they sort of like wash their hands of the issue and they're like, we're good. But it's so important for the creative team for that to be true in the creative team as well, as you say.
And can I just say, please get people that know how to deal with black hair in the wig rooms, because that is something that I've dealt with so many times where I'm have like an ignorant white woman who doesn't know what she's doing being like, I just want to cut all your hair off. Well, maybe in your cosmetology school they should have taught you how to deal with all hair types, because there are so many wig people that do not understand black hair, and it is very, very upsetting. And I like, that's another thing that I've been felt silenced about, because it's just like I've gotten into chairs when I'm going into fittings and apologized over and over again. I'm like, sorry that you have to do that. Like, no, 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 bad. No, it is not my fault. So I'm trying to unlearn that. I feel like there's so many things that have been like I've internalized, and I've been like, okay, this is how it has to be. No, it doesn't have to be like that. We need to do the work to get people to feel comfortable and be in a safe place, because it's not, I know it's called the great white way, but it isn't. Like, we need to be more inclusive and help people feel comfortable. Going to a conservatory program where it's like,
Yeah.
you're one of three people of color, you're gonna hear some crazy microaggressions. Or like working in regional theaters, where it's like there are not many, you don't have many people to say, hey, this happened, how do I deal with this. So it's very isolating in a way. So I feel for the people that are speaking up. I 100% know what it's like. I've been in those situations myself, where I'm like calling my dad crying because like I don't know what to do because there's no one else around me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 100% things need to change. And I just hope that people are continuing to do the work. And I know that we're coming back in September. And I hope that people understand that just because we're coming back doesn't mean that things are going to be okay if they go back to what they were before. We have to see some real change in order for people to feel safe.
Agreed. Agreed. I think it's very easy when everything's hypothetical to be like, oh, we're going to make all these changes. But now is when the proof will be in the pudding as we're going back and actually getting back into rehearsal rooms and back on stage about all of that. But it's very exciting that shows like, as you said, Your Memory of In the Heights and shows like Freestyle Love Supreme are happening, because
Yeah,
clearly it's changing
absolutely.
what's being done.
Yeah, I just want, and I hope that we can also figure out a way to make theater just more accessible to the people that need to see it. For the shows that, like who In the Heights was written for, who created hip hop, what is Freestyle of Supreme based on? Who do we're honoring the founding fathers of hip hop, and that's the Bronx community. And we do in the academy talk about that and honor that all the time. And I just want people that appreciate it to be there. I love the old white people that come see Broadway shows, but do you understand? I love you guys. Thanks for giving us your money, but also let's get it to the people that need to see it. That it's for.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you feel like, I feel like an exciting way that Freestyle Love Supreme could be tackling that issue is through the Hulu documentary.
Yeah, I do feel like some people were able to see. I mean, we were nominated for a Grammy alongside Beyonce and the Beastie Boys. We didn't win. Beyonce didn't win either, though. And
Who
that
won
was,
that in that category?
I think, I don't remember, which is
Clearly, you
embarrassing.
didn't take it that personally.
I didn't think of that personally. It's, I mean, I didn't know we knew we weren't gonna win. One of the Mike one of our group, Anthony Veneziali, one of the founders, his kids got him a cake that said "Congrats, Beyonce," for his Grammy viewing. And honestly, yeah,
What was the filming like for that? Was it just shooting one of the shows, or was there like separate?
yeah. Well, I was like very, 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 very small in that documentary, but it was really great to hear the story of how it came to be. Andrew Freed was a friend of the guys, and he just started following them very early on, years ago, and when they were performing in I forget what it's called, some festival somewhere, Edinburgh Festival, and yeah, so it's really wild to see them as babies,
Yeah.
babies, and doing their shows and figuring out the format of it. And they know we want to do this, but how do we make this into a show? And the way that Tommy Kail has crafted it and how it's grown into something that is a thing, it's really, really cool to hear the stories of them being, getting attacked with tennis balls being thrown at them, to being on Broadway.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really, really cool to watch the journey of just friends getting together doing this thing and love being in the center of that. Everyone does their stuff. There are some really busy people in the original group of Freestyle of Supreme. They're working, but at the end of the day, they're always coming back because they love it. It's a thing you can pick up and do. One day on Broadway, Lynn was in the area and he was like, "I'm gonna do the show tonight." Like, where can you do that? Or
That's
like James Eichelhart doing a Hamilton and then coming to do the 10 o'clock show of Freestyle because he's like, yeah, I want to have fun.
that's such a good point. I hadn't thought of that because obviously in the rest of theater you can't decide like I'm gonna go do, Hamlet today and have a production around it. So that's so interesting.
Right.
Or like playing an instrument and something like that that you can just like get
Yeah.
out and play. Um, I want in that vein, sort of, I want to ask you about your future projects and has your experience with Freestyle Love Supreme changed in any way what you want to do in the future? Do you want to do an album someday? Do you want to do more TV film? What are the plans?
Yeah. It's really, I'm just so grateful because it's opened so many doors. And as you said, have been doing, I have done the work. I have been, at auditions and getting rejections and I just still every day I pinch myself and I'm like, I didn't imagine this to happen. And it's kind of a once in a lifetime kind of story, the way that everything fell together. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to so many things. I'm, kind of dipping my toes into the film TV stuff. It's such a different game, it's such a different thing, but I would love to get more into that. Definitely want to do voiceover work. That sounds super fun, so I'm hoping to get into that world. um Music sounds great too. Yeah, the I'm ready for any and all things. It's just as long as it's positive and it fulfills me and it makes me happy, that's what I want to do. It's more about just being fulfilled and putting out positive work. That is what I want to do. Yeah, I'm game for anything.
Yeah, no, and you're someone who can do it all, it seems.
Yeah.
So why not do it all?
I've
Do
also been, oh, sorry. I've
oh,
also been like, because people are like, "Oh yeah, you've done this." I've like wrote pieces for choirs over quarantine, which is very strange because I've never considered myself a composer, but got approached to do two songs actually. Yeah, which is it's just been like it's opened a lot of doors.
that's
And it's really really cool to dip my toes into that kind of stuff as well. So, yeah.
that's awesome. I was gonna ask, um, yes, I mean, I asked you a bit about this before we started recording, but how have you been spending your time during the pandemic, uh,
Yeah.
as an actor and singer?
I feel deeply for so many of my peers, and I know like it's been a really rough time. I've been thankfully super, super blessed because the Academy, the Freestyle Supreme Academy, has been able to go virtual. So it's super bittersweet because while, our show and what we do, it thrives on community and being in person, we've been able to use Zoom and connect with people internationally that we wouldn't have
Yeah,
been able to connect with before because things were happening. We were supposed to go on tour, like we were doing gigs. There was a lot of things going on and then everything stopped. So we were able to build more of the academy, and we've just been working and being able to perform as an academy. Now that in-person stuff is happening again, like I've been doing some gigs. I have a gig later tonight, like
what's your game night? Can you share?
yeah.
All right, all right. Never
Sorry.
mind.
We just did let's get this show on the street with the new 42, which is
Oh
a
yeah.
arts education, and yeah, so it's been really great. And I've been working on a bunch of projects here and there. So I've been able to stay creative. And also at the beginning of the pandemic, where I was like, I don't want to be creative at all, I was able to do that too. Because I
Yeah.
felt people were working and putting out content like a week into the pandemic. And I was like, I'm tired actually. So I'm just going to take that break, and was able to just slowly get back into things. And now I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's dusty, but I don't know.
And you have built this unique career for yourself that, as I said, has all these different elements to it. Do you have advice for young aspiring actor singers who may be wanting to build a similar type of career for themselves?
Yeah, just keep going. You know how many times I walked into my house and told my mom I'm quitting? She was like, "No, you're not." Like, I mean, it gets hard, but if this is something you want to do, just keep going and never stop. I know for me, I said to myself, I don't want to do anything else. And so that's just the motivation that I created, and speaking things into existence and believing that what's for you is for you is for you. If something else doesn't work out, as long as you put in the work and continue to push through, something will. And I think that you just have to keep working hard and surround yourself with positive people, because that's another thing in this industry. It's that people think it's a competition, and people think that you're against each other, but you're not. I mean, your journey is your journey. You have to work really hard to not compare yourself, and I know that's so hard, and that's something that we're trained to do through social media, and looking at other people posting their highlights, but that's not always the true story. So try not to compare yourself, because you don't know what someone else's journey is, and you just have to focus on your own. You can
Yeah,
do it.
I think that's really true. But, and I, that was going to be my last question, but it now made me think of two small questions that we're going to end
Mhm.
with. Um, Speaking of comparing yourself, I feel like you have this voice that is incredible and makes me think of singers like, Jennifer Hudson, even like Aretha Franklin. But I'm curious if that comes at a cost. Like, do you ever feel pressured by the industry to sing like very specific types of material or only go out for very specific types of roles?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. They love black women. Just they love for us to scream and to
Come out on
sound,
the 11 o'clock number.
yeah, to
Great.
sound a certain way. And while I love those things, I have a very versatile voice, and I can do a lot of things.
Yeah,
So I do believe that we're moving in that direction where people are saying you don't have to be this one thing. And I love that, because I don't have to be. And I even run into situations now where people will ask me, "Oh, can you sing? Because you're in Freestyle of Supreme, you rap, you're a rapper." Baby girl, she she's a singer first, so
do some research.
yeah. And I'm just like, actually, yeah, I do sing, or so they'll try to put me in these boxes, but you have to be the person that removes yourself from that, because people are trained to do that. And as long as you say, hey, I can also do this, or put me in this, I think that that's really something that people need to do, so people don't lock you into something.
Totally. That being said, do you have any inspirations when thinking about your career? It doesn't have to be singing. It could just be like even directors you like or composers or anything like that.
Oh, that's so hard. Whew. I'm inspired by so many things. I'm inspired by music. I'm inspired by the people around me, the people that I surround myself with, the friends that are pushing me along, and that I push along, because we're in this together and we have to keep going. I'm inspired by the community that's going to bounce back after this pandemic, because we're the heart of New York, and we're, everyone turned to art in the midst of crisis, to watch people on TV and to listen to music to help them through things. um, yeah, I'm inspired by you.
please. Well, this has been so amazing. I'm gonna end with the thank you five segment, which is five rapid fire questions. Some of them it's interesting. A lot of guests, because my instinct for those are like favorites, and there are some favorite questions, but I know that people don't love picking favorites from their careers. So I'll err on the side of non-favorites for this. But first thing
Okay.
that comes to your head, and you don't necessarily have to answer if you don't want to. Some people have pleaded the fifth. So first, favorite topic you've used or word or something for a freestyle you've done in Freestyle Love Supreme.
Ooh. I would say kitty, but that doesn't make sense to you guys. It's just because we had a really good show one day where all of our verses were really great. And I think it was me, Utkarsh, and Wayne Brady. And we all just like at verse after verse after verse, everyone was in the pocket. And it was just a really good show. Oh, and also menstrual cycles. I was the only woman on stage that day, and somebody yelled that out as a pet peeve. And I don't think that the Anthony was getting the suggestions, but he didn't hear what she said. And I said, she said menstrual cycles, and I'll take that one. And at the stage door, every woman was coming up to me like, yeah, you did that. And I was like, yeah, the guys just don't get it. This is why women have to be in the sequel.
I love that. Wow. I would be the type of person who would shout out menstrual cycles for sure
Yeah,
at
I
the
mean,
show.
it's not fair.
Something that we don't already know about Lin-Manuel Miranda.
He is just the nicest person. Which I don't. I mean, you. I don't. I've never seen him have an off day, and I think that that's really crazy because he has a lot going on, and I think that I would get overwhelmed. But he always has a smile on his face, and he's always been a good, friendly human being who likes to make you feel included. And I don't think that everyone does that. I myself do that. So it's just really cool to see that in other people. I do admire that about him.
That's a really good way of putting it, because having worked with some like more famous people as well, I think they can be really nice, but to some extent a little aloof or a little standoffish. And
Yeah,
to know that I
it's
think,
very genuine.
yeah, wanting everyone to feel included and feel a part of something is probably like the most important thing you can have
Yeah,
in a person in
absolutely.
relationship. Um, a favorite show that you did pre-freestyle?
Mm, Sister Act.
So good. I would
Yeah, it
kill to see you in that.
was
So
fun.
maybe it'll come back. Maybe it'll come back.
It was
Um,
very fun.
a singer essential. So this could be like cough drops if you want it, but anything that you could not live without as a singer.
um, my ENT gave me this oil. I don't know what it's called, but I put it on my tongue and it makes me feel good. Um, and probably medicine ball from Starbucks. Order it.
I've never had it. What's in
It's
it?
so good. It's citrus tea with like I think like green tea, honey, steamed lemonade.
That sounds amazing.
It's
Wow.
really good.
I have to try that. And lastly, if you had to listen to one album for the rest of your life, what album would it be?
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Incredible choice.
Yeah, that's hard.
But that's what came to you. That's the whole point of the thank you five. This
It's
was
so good. It's
awesome.
very good.
Well, thank you, Aneesa. Is there anything that you feel like I've missed or anything you want to add?
I'll do a shameless plug and say that if you anyone out there wants to get outside of their comfort zone or is inspired and wants to try freestyle rapping, please come see us at the Academy at fls.academy. It's a safe space. As I said, we've had dentists, math teachers, rabbis, And it's also about public speaking and community building and just getting your authentic voice out. We do go into a lot of corporations and do workshops just to get people to team build and feel more comfortable using their voice. So I think that there are a lot of things that freestyle rap has to offer.
It reminds me too of like, I feel like a lot of people I know in the corporate world have done like UCB 101, for example. It's
Hmm.
very similar. And I feel like you could even get some better skills to build on that type of thing, because it's not just improv, it's this added
Yeah,
element
it's
to rap.
musical.
It's musical, exactly. Well,
Absolutely.
that's excellent. Everyone should go to that if they're interested. This was so fun. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Aneesa, for joining. Um,
thank you.
she's the best, and you can go on her website. I think it's just aneesafolds.com. Am I correct?
You are.
If you want more information. And thank you so much for watching another episode of Call Time. We will have another episode with another great actor, singer, dancer next week, soon to be revealed. And thank you so much. Have a great week.